Bonjour French 1 students, here is your teaching video for lesson 11C, pages 168 and 169 in your textbook. We're going to start with a little review about adjectives. That's what we've been learning about. And adjectives, remember, are describing words. In our case, we're using adjectives that are describing a noun. Okay. And what we have to remember about French nouns is that French nouns are masculine and feminine and singular and plural. So in French, we have to, our adjectives must agree in gender. And remember, masculine and feminine, this is the gender, right? This way, down here. And number, again, the number is this way, okay? With the noun they describe. So again, that's why it's so very important as you're learning your vocabulary that you're learning nouns with the and the un, because remember, our indications that our noun is masculine, some clues in case we've forgotten, are un or le, okay, our tone or mon that you've learned in French 1A, okay, and for feminine, un and la and ma and ta that you learned previously. So again, it's important as you've learned vocabulary that you've learned whether those nouns are masculine or feminine. And remember, we kind of put an X here when we talk about how to make them agree, because again, this is the form that you're going to be given in a dictionary, on a vocab list, etc. Always are given the masculine singular form of the adjective. So the question is, what do I do to that masculine singular adjective to make it feminine and singular? You add an E to the end of the adjective. What do I do to that masculine singular adjective to make it masculine and plural? You add an S. And what do I do to this masculine singular adjective to make it feminine and plural? You add an ES. Now, again, remember, there are a couple exceptions to this. Okay, so one exception is this right here, right? We do add an E to our adjective to make it feminine, except when the adjective already ends in E. Okay, so an example of that would be timide, which means shy, right? That's the masculine singular form of this adjective. The masculine singular and the feminine singular are exactly the same because timide already ends in an E, so we don't add an extra E to make it feminine. Another exception, okay, is this here, right? That we take our masculine singular adjective and we add an S to make it masculine and plural, except when our adjective already ends in an S. When the adjective already ends in an S, we don't add another S to make it a masculine and plural. So an example of that is anglais, which is English, right? That's the masculine singular form, but because anglais already ends in an S, this is also the masculine plural form because we don't add an extra S to it to make it masculine and plural. So that's what we have already talked about with these adjectives. Today, we're talking about where the adjectives go. So, for example, in English, we say a blue car, right? And our adjective is here, and our noun is here. And remember, this is our article. What we're going to see is that in French, it is the opposite. Okay? So in French, adjectives follow the noun they describe. So in French, okay, a blue car would be une voiture. And because voiture is feminine, here's my masculine singular form of blue, and I added E to make it feminine. So it'd be une voiture bleue. So, again, kind of the format here is article, noun, adjective in French. And again, this adjective still has to agree in gender, again, masculine and feminine, and number, singular and plural, with that noun. So, if we think about some of these adjectives that we have learned, if we want to say that she is interesting, it'd be elle est intéressante. And because we're talking about a girl, we'd add an E to intéressante to make it feminine. If we want to say she is an interesting girl, elle est une fille intéressante. Okay, so again, here we have, okay, here's our article. Here's our noun. Here's our adjective. And again, intéressant has the E on it because it's agreeing with the fact that une fille is feminine and singular. So I have to add an E. So that's really the only thing that's new in this part of the lesson 11 is the fact that adjectives go in a different spot in a French sentence than they do in an English sentence, right? In our English sentence, okay, we have our article, then we have our adjective, and then we have our noun. Okay, so notice that the order is different in French and in English. So let's take a look at this the way it's presented in your textbook. S'il vous plaît, ouvrez vos livres à la page 168. C'est la place des adjectifs. Note the position of the adjectives in the sentences on the right. Philippe a une voiture. Il a une voiture anglaise. Denise invite des copains. Elle invite des copains américains. Voici un livre. Voici un livre intéressant. J'ai des amis. J'ai des amis sympathiques. So again, okay, we have our adjective in each of these sentences, right? Following our noun, right? Here's our noun. And again, notice anglaise ends in an E because voiture is feminine and singular. Okay. Américain ends in an S because des copains is masculine and plural. Intéressant doesn't have anything added because un livre is masculine and singular. And sympathique has an S on it because des amis is feminine and plural, but because sympathique already ends in an E, we don't add the extra E, but we have to add the S to make it plural. So in French, adjectives usually come after the noun they modify according to the pattern article, noun, adjective. Une voiture française, des copains intéressants. So take a look at exercice 9, qui se ressemble. Say that the following people have friends, relatives, or acquaintances with the same personality or nationality. So look at our example prompt. We have Claire est anglaise. So Claire is English. So we want to say she has an English friend. We know we're using un copain because that's what we see in parentheses. And we're going to use the same adjective here, okay, to describe the friend. So every single time here we're going to be using that verb avoir. So remember the forms of avoir are j'ai, tu as, il or elle or a person's name, a, nous avons, vous avez, and il and elle or multiple people's names, ont. So again, notice, okay, our noun, right, is here, and our adjective ends up here, and then we have the la, right, that is this form. So I'd like this to be a speaking one. So we have numéro 1, Jean-Pierre est sympathique, des cousines. Il a des cousines sympathiques. 2. La prof est intelligente, des étudiants. Elle a des étudiants intelligents. 3. Madame Simone est intéressante, des voisines. Elle a des voisines intéressantes. 4. Alice est américaine, des copines. Elle a des copines américaines. 5. Véronique est amusante, un frère. Elle a un frère amusant. 6. Michel est sportif, une sœur. Il a une sœur sportive. 7. Pedro est espagnol, des camarades. Il a des camarades espagnols. 8. Antonio est mexicain, une copine. Il a une copine mexicaine. Neuf Bernard est sportif en voisin. Il a un voisin sportif. Right, the pronunciation, les consonnes finales. As you know, when the last letter of a word is a consonant, that consonant is often silent. But when a word ends in an E, the consonant before it is pronounced. As you practice the following adjectives, be sure to distinguish between the masculine and feminine forms. So again, in general in French, the last letter of a word is typically not pronounced. And so that changes the pronunciation when the last letter of the word changes from being a consonant to a vowel. So, s'il vous plaît, répétez blond, blonde, grand, grande, petit, petite, amusant, amusante, français, française, anglais, anglaise, américain, américaine, Canadien, Canadienne. So remember, it is important as you use consonant or adjectives to describe people that you make sure you pronounce your adjective correctly, because you don't want to be talking about a girl and say grand, and you don't want to be talking about a boy and say grande. All right, your homework is on page 167, exercise 7, and page 168, exercise 9. Exercise 7 is les nationalités. Give the nationalities of the following people. So we have Sylvia et Maria sont de Rome, so they are from Rome, which makes them Italian. So elles sont italiennes. So again here, we're using the verb être, which means to be. And our forms of être, remember, are je suis, tu es, il or elle or one person's name, est, nous sommes, vous êtes, and il and elle pluriel, or multiple people's names, sont. So the reason this one uses elles sont is because we're talking about Sylvia and Maria, which are two girls, and it's more than one. And then Rome is in Italy, so it's Italien. And also on page 167 are those adjectives. So you're going to write out these sentences for these. So for example, number 1, Lise et Nathalie étudient à Québec. Those are two girls, so we're going to say elles sont. And Quebec is in Canada, so they're Canadian. Canadienne, that's the masculine singular. I'm talking about two girls, so I have to add the S to make it feminine. So to kind of help you out a little bit, again, this is two girls. Michael and Dennis are two boys. Louis and Paco are two boys. Isabel and Carmen are two girls. Yoko and Kumi, number 5, are two girls. In number 6, Monsieur et Madame, that's a boy and a girl, so you kind of treat it as two boys. In number 7, you have Jean-Pierre and Claude, so that's two boys. And in number 8, you have Francois and Sylvie, which is two girls. Then, to help you a little bit with the nationalities, because it's been my experience that sometimes students don't know where in the world these places are, right? Quebec is in Canada. Liverpool's in England, which would make them English. Madrid is in Spain. Acapulco's in Mexico. Tokyo is in Japan. Number 6, Monsieur, they're from Beijing, which is in China. Number 7, Genève, which is in Switzerland. And number 8, Paris, which is in France. So you're writing out sentences like the example that I wrote, the Elles sont Canadiennes, for the 8 of these. Exercice 9, we just did this one out loud. Say that the following people have friends, relatives, or acquaintances with the same personality or nationality. Again here, this time you're using the verb avoir. Again, forms of avoir, j'ai, to a, il or elle or one person's name, a, nous avons, vous avez, and il and elle pluriel, ont. And again, remember, Claire, right, becomes elle because it's one person. Here's our verb avoir. And then again, this noun here comes next. And then this adjective here is going to get used again. Now notice, remember though, our adjective has to agree with the noun. So that's why this adjective is spelled differently, because Claire is one girl. So anglaise has to end in an E for her. But now we're talking about a male friend, so anglais is just the masculine singular form. So for example, for number 1, you would write il a des cousines. And des cousines is feminine and plural. So sympathique here is masculine and singular. So I have to make it feminine and plural. I don't add an E to it because it already ends in an E, but I need to add an S to make it plural. So you're writing out sentences like that for the 9 of those. Au revoir, à demain.